So about a month ago, I decided to move out of my parents' house and start living alone as a single, eligible bachelor. Now, to my surprise, this decision was met with a lot of criticism and disapproval from my family, my friends, and the people that I know in general, including my barber. Their argument was that I was too inexperienced to handle life alone and that I should wait until I'm married to move out. But despite all of these opposing voices, I decided to make the jump and get my own place anyway. Now, fast forward a couple of days after I started living alone, I very quickly discovered that all of the things that they warned me about were in fact true. For the first time in my life, I felt alone, and I mean completely alone. It's as if all of my anxious thoughts and my deepest insecurities were set free to run around in my tiny apartment. You see, for as long as I could remember, I've always been surrounded with people, and I understandably always longed for solitude. But that changed overnight. You see, the Henoch that always longed for solitude was now longing for companionship. Now, as if the agony of feeling lonely wasn't enough, living alone meant that I now all of a sudden have to learn to cook for myself. But no worries, I am by no means a beginner when it comes to cooking. I'm in fact novice. Yes, because I think in order to be considered a beginner, you have to at least know a few things. And let's just say that I'm not in that camp. So I had to rely on the cooking tips that my mom gives me over the phone and a few cooking tutorials that I found on YouTube to somehow teach myself how to cook without burning the house down in the process. Now, the story doesn't end there, ladies and gentlemen, because if you thought for a second that cooking was my least favorite thing to do, you'd be mistaken. It's actually doing the dishes. I'm at a point in my life where, and I want to make sure that I say this with enough degree of seriousness, I'm at a point in my life where I would rather eat off of the floor or eat out of a plastic bag than to risk pulling out a cleanly washed plate. I mean, I now understand why women are so angry all the time. It's because they do the dishes. There's no other theory that could explain that. Now, regardless of how helpless I felt, I took it day by day. I remember reading something online that said, the greatest gift of human beings is the ability to forget. I would argue with that and say one of the greatest gifts of human beings is the ability to adapt. You see, even though all of these things that I was facing seemed unbearable at first, all I needed was time. Time to adjust my pace to the rhythm of my responsibilities. All I needed was time. Time to adapt. It's funny to think that it's only been a month because I've learned so much about myself and my inadequacies in this short period of time. I've learned how to manage, or rather ignore, my anxious thoughts when I'm alone. I've somehow learned how to fix myself a nice meal that is semi-digestible. I've also learned the best way to keep the dishes clean is to never use them in the first place. What I mean to say is, although my life at this moment is far from ideal, I can boldly state that I'm making progress. And I wouldn't have been able to do that had I not chosen to embark on this journey alone.